today on CityCast Madison. It's Thursday, so of course, we're dishing on Madison's food scene. We know that our city is iconic, and our food culture is too. Hello, this year's Top Chef Wisconsin. But what local restaurants are iconic to us? It's certainly up for debate, so why not dish about it here? Molly Stent sits down with our friend Lindsay Christians, food editor at the Cap Times, to round up Madison's quintessential restaurants. It's Thursday, April 25th. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Lindsay, hello. Nice to see you.
Hello, it's good to be seen.
You've been a little busy.
Yes, I mean, Top Chef has sort of taken over my life a little bit, but it's good. It's all good.
I'm so glad you could be here with us today to talk about essential Madison restaurants.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that this would spark some, if not arguments, some heated debate, right? Because everybody has their favorite places. And there are also places in Madison that I can say definitively, like, this is an important restaurant to Madison, and it is really iconic and wonderful, even if it's not my favorite place or a place that I go a lot. So putting together a list like the Essentials, which is what my good friend Kyle Nabilsi recently did for Eater Chicago, putting together a list like that, it can't just be your favorites. It's got to be representational, like have representation of the city geographically, different price points, a diversity of cuisines. It's a lot to do.
You mean you can't just declare like, these are the best restaurants of Madison because I say so?
Right, exactly.
That's not fair?
No.
Okay.
There are restaurants that I would have loved to see on a list like this, or that I would have been tempted to put on, but that if this was my job, I wouldn't do it. Like, I feel like there's got to be kind of a pizza place, probably, right? Or the Italian restaurant. Like, I love Lombardino's and I love Bar Corallini.
Yes.
But if I've got to pick one, Papavero, right?
Yes. Okay. But those are like separate categories of restaurants, even in my mind. Like fancy date night essential. And then there's like family visiting in town with a big group kind of essential.
Yeah. There's also like, it's Thursday night and I want to get a glass of wine and this is closer to my house.
Sure.
And that is totally valid. But I think it is telling that the list that Kyle assembled for Eater Chicago doesn't have a lot of West Side representation, because it does tend to be a little bit more chain land. Yeah. But also he and I are both East Siders, and that comes across. And I think just sort of acknowledging that, like, we do have some geographic bias, even as we try to fight it, that's gonna come across. And also the way that Kyle eats and the things that he's looking for are often really different from what I am looking for. So it's so cool that like he did this list and that we get to talk about it today, because as I said, I hope for a little bit of debate.
Okay, so let's start at the top. What's your most essential Madison restaurant?
I mean, if I'm doing this list, most of it is going to overlap with what Kyle has got here. I have to say, I think he did a really excellent job finding some of the most essential Madison restaurants. I feel like any list like this has to have L'Etoile on it.
Right. That was what I was going to say. Like, you just have to start there. It's got such a great story.
It has an amazing story. It has sort of spawned, I don't want to say imitators because that sounds derisive in a way that I don't mean, but
inspired.
Right? It has inspired other restaurants. Harvest, was sort of inspired out of it and was born out of it. That restaurant ran for 20 years and was influential on the square. And then Harvest itself, sort of spawned other restaurants from there. So L'Etoile is, it's probably the most expensive restaurant in Madison. The technique is probably above any other in this town. Like, it is a beautiful restaurant and the food is absolutely gorgeous. And it's, it's a pretty dear night out.
Yeah. Special moment.
It should be, because they're doing beautiful work there. And, the little secret of really high-end restaurants is they don't make the kind of money that like Gray's would next door, because it takes so long and so much labor to make those beautiful plates.
Labor intensive, yeah.
And the ingredients that you're using and all of those things. I mean, they use those kinds of ingredients at Gray's too, but they can do more turns.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not going to rush you out the door at L'Etoile.
And they're hoping to make some margin on the wine, which they should.
Agreed.
What about for you? After L'Etoile, second most iconic.
That could mean so many different things, though. Is it iconic because it's downtown and it's centrally located, or it's on a lake and so people see it and know it and talk about it a lot? Is it just because I go there a lot and really love the food and I feel like it's crowded and a lot of other people go there a lot and love the food? Like, how do you define it?
I feel like that was building up to Sardine a little bit.
Absolutely. Like, bam.
It's on the lake, just beautiful views of the lake, right? I just had this incredible savory oatmeal dish, which sounds weird, but was actually kind of incredible, with mushrooms and like hearty greens and a charred shallot jus. And I think, hands down, the best brunch in the city. We've talked about this before. They're so amazing.
Every time I've been there lately, it's been kind of like a whim, driving by, literally being like, oh, it would be so nice. Let me just pop in there. Or let me text a friend. And then I go in and I'm like, why did I think this was going to happen? No, there is no room in this place.
Similar to Sardine in terms of the reservation question, a lot of people are very into like, I have to have a reservation. I have to have a reservation. And I totally get that. I like to eat late, which is part of the reason I'm like, well, if I have to wait like an hour or two, like it's not a big deal. I don't have an issue with it usually. But Mint Mark, you can't get a reservation there. They're not even taking reservations between now and when they close the small location on May 9th. But that's the restaurant I recommend the most to people who are new to town. That is the restaurant that if it had not been on this list, I would have had questions,
Yes, totally. You want people to see it. You want people to experience it, but also, will they be able to get in?
The other night we went and it was like 8:30, I want to say, and the bar was like too deep. It was packed and we got a seat. Like
nice.
it works out because also because we, I'll put my name in and say, I'll be back in 30 minutes or whatever. Like, let me know. And they're holding those seats. And I had the most incredible apelskever, which are like these little, like puffy, almost like a donut, but like a puffy pancake kind of.
Ooh.
And it's served with burrata. Absolutely delicious.
So savory, a little bit of savory?
Yeah, so like savory sweet, like there was like a little bit of I want to say a tart rhubarb jam on there. But the creamy burrata and these little like puffed buns. Oh my goodness, it was so good. It was so good. The carrot mafaldine, which is delicious. It's almost like a ragu, but it's got carrots. The flatbread with feta and olives and preserved lemon. I mean,
yes.
This place is just it, and it's always something new and delicious that I haven't had, even if it's only been a week since I've been there,
It's like they need a bigger place or something. I don't know. But speaking of your tip of like going to a bar and just wait, doing a little happy hour before your reservation, like what a great location. Any number of bars in the Atwood area, you could do that to get a place in Mint Mark.
Totally. And I think East Wash is going to be coming up in that way, right?
Yes.
There's going to be more options. And there already are. Like Turnkey is there. Jardine is there, which I absolutely love. So they're getting to be more options. They're just a little bit more spread out than they are in Atwood when you can kind of pop over to Bar Corallini or, I guess now you could go to the little Cava Lounge and have probably not Cava if you're going to be drinking wine, but you could, I guess. I mean, play with fire. This is not a recommendation. Don't do as I'm saying.
Was there anything on the list that kind of surprised you?
So I would not probably have put Paul's Pelmeni on the list. And here's why. I haven't been there in a long time. When I did go, I thought it was fine. But if the point is to put a close to campus, inexpensive spot on a list, I'm going to go Med Cafe. I love the Mediterranean Cafe.
Preach.
Right?
Yes.
It's so good. It's inexpensive and delicious. They give you so much food. It's a place where I feel the generosity in the food.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's
a staple.
Yeah.
Yes, that was on my list too. Med Cafe, 100%. And I will add Himalchuli on there as well. For places in Madison that feel like an oasis. Feel like if you need cozy, you need comforting, you need vegetables, which is often my case. I'm a vegetarian, and that place is got so many options, and it's constantly changing the Takari of the day. Those places are just like, I feel like little oases in Madison. that have been there, and classic staples, been there for like generations.
Totally. Parthenon Euros is another favorite. Like if I just need something inexpensive on State Street, delicious, reliably, Parthenon has got you, right? Like it's just, they're great. And I was actually thinking, it's funny, Kyle has fresh, cool drinks as a food cart on this list.
I will co-sign that. I will.
Yeah, you like that one? I would have gone Bonzo if I'm putting a food cart on the list. And I'm like, maybe I just lean more like Mediterranean in this way. And I thought those were both two interesting ones. But then I would have been questioning myself, like, do I want to have this number of Mediterranean joints on the list? Because again, the point is having diversity and different cuisines and that kind of thing.
Yes, I would say the spring rolls, though, are iconic. I mean, how many college students have gone there and told their friends and their family for just years and years and years and years? Like, they are so huge and so affordable and so fresh. And she travels. She does farmers markets, too. I feel like they're legendary.
Yeah. Since we're in food cart season, quick sidebar. My fave food carts always are Kaki Lima, which has nasi goreng. It's an Indonesian food cart. Absolutely delicious.
I love that one.
Lima.
Where are they?
Usually on that little library mall area of State Street.
Yeah.
And I love the arepas from Caracas.
Yeah.
So they have Caracas empanadas and Caracas arepas. And I love the arepas. And I specifically love the Reina Pepiada, which is like a chicken salad one. But they have delicious vegetarian ones as well.
Nice. The other thing that kind of surprised me was the lack of breakfast options. You know, we got quite a few here in Madison.
We do. I am normally not a big breakfast eater. I am a big fan of Ogden's on the north side, though.
Yeah. But I kind of feel like if you were going to recommend to someone that was coming into town, maybe for a conference or for a weekend, and they wanted to have like a nice, leisurely experience for breakfast, like I'd probably tell them to go to Lazy Jane's and to make up a fake name to have somebody yell that from the rooftops, because that's just a Madison experience.
To me, it depends a little bit about where they are. Like Marigold is so wonderful.
Yeah.
And I would be tempted to say, if you're going to do breakfast one place and you're downtown already for where you're staying, I might say Marigold.
True.
But Lazy Jane's is where I take my parents every single time they're here.
Yep.
So yeah, Lazy Jane's that's a good addition to this list. That would be smart, I think.
Yeah. I also feel like maybe if you want to include something that's gonna be sure to please anyone, no matter who you got family visiting, maybe they have kids, maybe they have dietary restrictions, old friends you haven't seen in a while, you don't know what their situation is. I kind of feel like Monty's Blue Plate would be the classic for that. Like, that's the place when like I have family visiting with kids and allergies, and it's like, okay, everybody's going to get something there. And right there on Atwood, you can people watch. It's kind of a classic place for somebody just popping through town.
Yeah, and it's right near Gail Ambrosius and Fortune Favors there. I think being able to see some neighborhood is nice. I really loved seeing Settle Down Tavern on this list. It's a relatively new entry to sort of Madison's best, in my opinion. But the Settle Down's menu is so streamlined. It's so straightforward. I always get the Pritneer burger with the vegetarian patty subbed because I like their veggie patty a lot. And I love the Betty's Party Mix. They have fantastic cocktails. I have in my notes that people should try the Sam saved a baby duckling last week.
Wait, what?
Which is it's made with gin, like a celery juice, genepi, which I use as a substitute for green chartreuse.
Ooh.
It's like very herbal, but it's cheaper than green chartreuse and less boozy. But a gin, celery, genepi, and lemon. And it's so good. It's such a perfect spring cocktail.
That sounds so good.
And it's got a great name. You get to order the Sam saved a baby duckling last week.
Lindsay, I want to drink, and it's far too early in the morning for that.
It's 5:00.
Somewhere.
Basically.
I had one other thing that I felt like was maybe classic Madison that I would recommend if somebody was, you know, in a hurry but wanted to see or experience just like a little slice of classic Madison, and that would be Fraboni's.
Oh, I think that surprises me from you because I think of them as being so meaty.
They are, but they also have just a really good vegetarian sandwich. And I feel like that's something that if you want to experience Madison, you have to go to their deli counter and you have to get a sandwich from Fraboni's. Like,
You just have to. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. You just have to.
The rules are the rules. I didn't make them. I will enforce them.
Maybe I'm partial to, I grew up with like Italian neighborhood delis. And so maybe it makes me think of my childhood. I don't know, but I just love that place. I love it. It's so cozy. It's so comfortable. It's so community oriented.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I think my favorite vegetarian sandwich in the city is probably the Vegetalian from Casetta, Kitchen and Counter, which has been under new ownership for a little while now. It's Nick Lark and Shauna Whalen. They used to run those Ladybird dinner parties out of Casetta, like on the evenings and weekends kind of thing.
I keep hearing about it. You know, it's funny because I used to work years ago right there and went there often and kind of knew everything that was available in West Wash. And I don't anymore. And I haven't been there in a bit. And I've heard people talk about it. And I feel like I've been remiss.
Yeah.
So you're saying I should go?
Yes, you have to go. The Vegetalian, it's incredible. It's like a roasted butternut squash, but it's sliced really thin and it still has some bite to it. So it's not like falling apart roasted squash with provolone cheese, lettuce, tomato, onion, oil, vinegar, da-da-da. It's so good. It's such a good veggie sandwich. It feels like filling, but like texturally different in a way that I really like. Yeah.
I love that. I love a veggie sandwich that isn't like, here's some salad greens.
That happens a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was also really happy to see Ahan on this list because it's just, they're wonderful. And I could have the boon every day, that beautiful, like just rice noodles and herbs, and their dumplings are delicious. But I feel like everything is very beautiful and very fresh.
Yes.
And like funky and bright at the same time. Oh, I love their food.
Speaking of restaurants that needed a bigger place.
Oh my gosh.
For sure.
Yeah. I'm interested in restaurants as a reflection of the communities around them. Mm-hmm. So I'm reporting this week on the closure of Nick's on State Street, which has, been around for over 50 years.
End of an era.
Yeah. And talking with the owner about how attached people are to that restaurant. And I think we probably all have restaurants that we've been or are particularly attached to, and how it becomes owned a little bit by the people who go there all the time.
Yes. I cannot think of Nick's and not think of Soglin. Paul Soglin. It's just like seared in my brain forever.
Totally. And I'm having some feelings about like that around Mint Mark right now. Yeah. And recently we were there and the bartender took a Polaroid of us. So we have like this little memory of us sitting at that bar. And it's about the people that you were with in that space as much as it is like the menu and the drinks and the ambiance and the service and da-da-da-da-da. It's all kind of part of that experience. And I love thinking about restaurants as these cultural touchstones. And I think that's what this list gets to as well, this essentials list.
And I feel like in that restaurant in particular just has such a good lineage, has such a good vibe that whoever runs it next is going to be awesome. I hear it's going to be good, but I loved the Mermaid Cafe before it. And when it went away, I was like, oh, so forlorn. And then when Mint Mark came, it was like, oh, look, something awesome. Yeah. And so now I feel like we're having that about Mint Mark. Like, oh, no, is it going to be as good? Is it going to be as charming? Is it going to be as beautiful? Is it going to be as friendly? But maybe it'll be replaced by something that we'll go to and say, this is awesome. So,
yeah,
like you said, moment in time.
There is apparently going to be a Mexican restaurant coming to the former Nick's space. So we'll find out more about them once they get their liquor license in order and they make the announcement themselves. But there are things like that where I want to sort of accept that there is a season for things. And then this is the new season.
The new season of Madison.
Exactly.
Thank you, Lindsay, for dropping by to chat. We could chat restaurants any day, all day. Thanks for coming, and good luck. Top Chef Mania continues.
Thank you. Yeah, listen to the Corner Table Top Chef Wisconsin podcast. We're every week.
That's Lindsay Christians, food editor for the Cap Times. If you want to check out the Eater Chicago article on Madison that we mentioned in the show, go head to our show notes for a link. That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin. If you enjoyed the show, why not share this episode with your most iconic friend? We'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, eat good.